What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Invest Iowa. And today I have Bexaida with me. And we're going to talk about flipping, how she got into the flipping business model. She started all the way from wholesaling to being a realtor to now flipping houses. What that has to do with real estate is pretty much the backbone to everything you've worked on so far.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
If you could please give me an introduction, kind of like a brief explanation of who you are and how you're related to real estate, that'll be good.
Sounds good. So I won't go back too far, but so I was managing a coffee shop back in 2019. And the way I got started with managing was because I didn't know what to do in college. So I was like, should I go to school? Should I not? So I chose not to. And I was like, how can I make money? How can I make really good money without a college degree? And I'm like, you know what? Managing, you know what I mean? So I started managing, moved up to be a general manager at Caribou. And then I was working 50 hours a week.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, 4:30 a.m. to like 3 p.m.
Oh.
So tired. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything except for the hours and how draining it was. And how I didn't have a way to financial freedom through it unless I did what our parents did and save. You know what I mean? Which is an old method on how to become financially free. And so I kept thinking, I'm like, how can I get out of this? I don't have a college degree. I don't have a talent. I'm not a singer, dancer, performer. And so I was just going through the motions. And so I started reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's an excellent book. I started reading it, and I'm like, well, I need to get specialized knowledge in something, but I don't know what. And then one week there was this gentleman that just kept coming through, and in the back of my mind, I had real estate, flipping houses. I just didn't know how to get there, and I thought you needed a lot of money to get in there. So this gentleman kept coming through, and finally I asked him, I'm like, hey, so what do you do? It was like 4:30 in the morning. He's like, oh, I do real estate. I was like, at this time of the day? And he's like, at any time of the day. I'm like, can we meet? And so I needed somebody to explain to me how they were doing what they were doing. So we met up for coffee, and he explained how he was doing it, and what he was doing was wholesaling. So he was telling me, hey, so I go to the seller, a motivated seller. I ask them if I can buy their house, and then I look for an end buyer, and what I'm doing is I'm selling the contract. So 2020, I buy this wholesaling program mentorship, and within 3 months I had my first wholesaling deal, and I made I think it was $4,000, but I had only worked like 6 hours. You know what I mean? And I was like, shoot, this is possible. I can do this, and I like this better than what I'm doing, And so I went down that route, and I was having a hard time bringing in leads, and I just felt like I couldn't be fully transparent with the sellers. So I'm like, I should probably get my real estate license. And so while I'm getting my real estate license, I'm also starting a business with my dad, a painting business. And so there was, a bunch of learning and, on how to run a business, how to be in there. I had to work the field. I had to go up ladders, roofs, so it took me a little bit longer than a typical person would take with getting their license, because it's only 60 hours, and it took me almost a full year.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, because I was doing other things. And so 2022, I get my license in March, and I had been chasing after this flip in the Valley Junction area. Mm-hmm. And the lady kept saying no to me because it was a lowball offer, but the house was distressed. You know what I mean? And so I think she was trying to make money out of it and not just pay whatever was left. So she said no to me 7 times, and finally we agreed on a price. I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I was like, where am I gonna get the money from? So I had heard of hard money lenders, and I'm like, I can do that, you know. So I reached out to one, and I got approved. And yeah, I mean, it took us a little bit longer than I expected, but it was flipped in 3 months and out of my hands within 4 months.
Okay, wait. Before we wrap up the first flip, hard money lending. It was your first time asking for credit. It was also your first time doing any sorts of flip. What was the conversation like with that institution or company that was gonna lend you the money?
So I said to him, "Hey, I have a dream. I want to flip this house. I have so much money down, and my credit is not great." Um, and so he said, "Let me see what I can do," and came back. I mean, interest is higher, but they don't ask for your W-2s or your work history. They check your credit, and all they care is that you have money in the bank, and that's it. I mean, there's no employment verification at all, none of that stuff. Some of them they do require an appraisal. Others, they just want pictures of the house, and that's their appraisal. So, yeah, I mean, it was crazy to hear that there was such an institution that did that, you know. But yeah, it worked for me.
It worked for you, and then that flip negotiated the price with the seller.
Yeah,
And 3 months you flipped
3 months. Yeah.
Did you do this by yourself? You hire a contractor?
So that one I actually had my uncle do it for me, and he was in, remodeling homes, and so he did that for me. But I mean, I was going in not knowing anything about homes other than what I had learned from,
Yeah.
The 60 hours that you take as a course for the license.
That's nothing. That doesn't do anything.
Yeah, for sure. So that I didn't know how to start, where to start, what to do. So it was very nerve-wracking, but it turned out great. I mean, we barely had any items in the inspection, which was amazing.
Yeah. Did you profit on your first one?
Barely.
Barely.
Yeah, which, I see it was such an accomplishment for me that even though those $20,000, it seemed like a lot, because you're like, I've never made this much in just one check. I've never seen a check this big.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I was beyond stoked on how it worked, that it is possible. It wasn't a dream. It was my reality now.
Yeah.
So.
You never looked back after that?
No. I'm like, let's keep it moving.
So when did you get your second flip?
So second flip I got a month after.
Oh, that was fast.
Yeah.
How were you getting these leads?
The MLS. So I look for distressed properties that have been in the market for over 30 days, right? And why is that? Because they're overpriced. Someone's scared to go in and fix it up. So it's that one, I got it through the MLS. It had been in the market for a while. We negotiated a price, and yeah, it was such an easy flip. It was all cosmetics, and I doubled my profit on that one from the first flip. So I'm like,
wow,
let's get her going.
And is it because your systems were better, or you were better of hiding the right people for the job?
I think that for the second house, it was that it didn't have so much cosmetic damage. You know what I mean? So we just changed out the cabinetry, the floors, painted the walls, replaced the sheeting in the roof. Basement was, it was dry, so there wasn't. Yeah. It was we flipped it within 5 weeks.
That's fast.
So my goal is 6 weeks, and we did 5 weeks, and then it sold, before the end of the year.
Yeah. And in terms of the flipping and the renovation cost, from what you've learned, is there any classifications to what you will do to one property that you wouldn't do to the other? What type of flips are you looking for currently? Do you like more the lipstick flips or more the hard work flips?
So I think I love learning. So I'll take, if it's like structural damage, I won't take it because it's just scary. I haven't done one, so it's scary to do something that big. Foundation issues, not a big deal unless it's really like caving in. But yeah, right now I'm just looking for whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say that the learning, you're not afraid of taking anything, what will be your ideal flip? The flip that you feel most comfortable with taking in terms of renovations?
I think I mean, a lipstick one, just like one that you come in and you do cosmetic. That's easy. But then also like the harder ones that you do more to it, you're like, shoot, that house is ready to go. They're not gonna have to do much for a long, long time. That also feels really good to know that they're in a home that's not, it's not a new build, but it's like renovated all the way.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. In terms of now your week schedule, how do you plan out your entire schedule as a flipper?
So it's really hard because a lot of things come up, right? So it just depends on where we're at with the flip. So, for example, like the flip that I'm working right now, we need to pull permits. So I'm also waiting to see how my contractors are working. So right now they're rewiring the house, so I don't really have much to do other than work on my business rather than in my business.
That makes sense.
You know.
Yeah. And then those permits, how long does it take you to get all of that settled and done?
God, so this is the first time that we have to pull permits, and it's not as scary as it seems. Like you just submit it online, which is it's super easy. The only hard part about it is that you need to submit like the blueprints of before, like the actual, like how the house is, and the after if you're removing any walls. So it can be tricky if you either pay somebody to do that if you have the funds, or you have to do it yourself. Learn how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of those things that you don't learn unless you actually start flipping?
Oh gosh, everything. I mean, so I always say like what I learned so early on is that start from the bottom up. So what I do is I start from the basement and I make my way up to the cosmetics and the in the roof. A lot of the times, people just want to paint the walls, paint the cabinets, even though they're falling apart. You know what I mean? But I take so much pride in the flips because it's your reputation, it's your legacy, it's, you know what I mean? And so we start with the basement, and then how is the plumbing looking? How is the electrical looking? How are the floor joists? Like, is the floor crooked? What can we do about it? And then we go upstairs, and then kitchen, bedrooms, flooring, texture. How's the roof looking? How's the outside looking? So, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've learned is just start from the bottom up, because if you start upstairs and then you find out that there's something wrong downstairs, it's a lot harder, especially with plumbing or electrical. If you start patching the walls and then you need to do electrical, they need to, drill holes to get wire down. So, yeah.
Here for Iowa, what's so special about basements?
Oh, gosh. Water damage. So my third flip came in, it was January, and that house had been in the market for over 30 days. And I'm like, it's a great area. It's in the south side. It has a big lot. I mean, you could look at it as overpriced. You weren't going to get that much of a profit. But when I looked on the MLS, the beauty of being a realtor and an investor, you have access to the MLS, right? Mm-hmm. So I looked on the MLS, and I saw that the lot next to it was included. So to me, that's gold, because you're getting a house
and
then you're getting a lot where you could potentially sell or build. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that house, it was the third flip, January of this year, closed in February. Took us 6 weeks to flip. It was under contract. It was May. That day that they were going to do a final walkthrough, started pouring like crazy. And so take into consideration, I've only held it for 6 weeks, right? And I could smell like it was damp downstairs, but there was nothing. And so buyers do the final walkthrough. and there's a pool of water in the basement. And I'm like, I didn't know how to, like, it was my first time dealing with it. I'm like, okay, so I need to do something. I just don't know how to get started, right?
Yeah.
And so I told the realtor and the buyers, and I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do, you know. And so they didn't even give us 24 hours to get back to them, but we were gonna fix it. Like, it's fixed, it's waterproofed. There's a gutter system underneath the concrete, and then there's a radon pipe
Fan.
going up, and so like the whole thing is waterproof. But they didn't give us a chance to react, you know. And so so now I'm like, I check for moisture. They sell a little device where you can check for moisture, and if there's moisture, then you do something, because you don't want to deal with this. Like, now you're 2 months behind, because you gotta put it back on the market. You gotta wait for somebody to buy it, and then they're gonna question what happened.
Yeah.
You know, the fall through. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, if you're borrowing money, there's also a limited time
yes,
for you to return the money and the profits.
exactly, and especially with the loans that I get from hard money lenders, they're interest only loans, so the principal's not getting paid. You know what I mean? So you gotta get moving fast. I mean, time is of the essence when you're flipping. You gotta get going, you know, and the sooner the better. You gotta get all your ducks aligned. And
How many flips do you have going at the same time?
so right now I had two going at the same time, but I have a total of three right now. One is pending, the other one's for sale, and then we're doing a big one. That one is a custom renovation. So that one is we're custom renovating for my sister, and so that's something that we want to be known for at BX Home Solutions, is custom renovating, people waiting for us to renovate something for them, because they see the process. You know what I mean? Like, we're pulling permits for everything. I mean, the plumbing's done, the electrical's done, and they're choosing what they want it to look like. I mean, if the floor plan allows it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so ideally, I'd love to have two at the same time, two going at the same time, and then go from there.
Does that feel like a full-time job? Too?
It really does. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you have contractors on both houses, problems that arise, you know, at both houses. There's a leak. There's always something going on.
There's always something.
Yeah, for sure.
Where do you see yourself going now what's your next step that you think is going to take you from flipping to owning real estate to, what's your exit strategy, and what do you think are your next steps?
So the end goal is to have passive income, cash flow, right? Mm-hmm. To the point where I don't have to worry about producing, you know what I mean? Like, or flipping homes. So I think owning real estate, owning multifamily units, and really focusing on my real estate career as a realtor.
Okay.
You know, so yeah.
So that passive income and the active income at the same time are your priority.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to financial freedom.
Financial freedom. So do you think that's the next goal? Like, that's really what you're working on for the next 5 years, let's say?
Oh yeah, I mean, I want to be a part-time worker, right? Because we're entrepreneurs, we're always working. But like, out in the field, I want to semi-retire in 10 years.
Okay. See, the good thing about being an entrepreneur is that you don't have a schedule, but you work 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's a trade-off.
Yeah. And you're at 2 a.m., you're like, oh, I want to send this text really bad because I just want to get it, out of the way. And so Android allows you to schedule text messages to be sent out. So that's what I like.
This is not a commercial.
We promise.
What about talk to me then about the flips? What is so special about contractors? Have you find any sweet spot? And you said it was your uncle, I remember, right?
At that time, yeah.
At that time, not anymore.
No, he's we're both moving on to other things. You
Okay.
know, yeah, it's a long story. We don't have to do a podcast on
Right.
that. But yes, so it's hard finding
I'd
contractors.
imagine.
Oh my gosh, really, really hard. But I think you build that relationship with them. You know, it's all about building relationships. So right now I have two great guys working on one of my flips, and we're constantly working on building our relationship. And yeah, I mean, I ideally would love to have employees under me, you know, like that people that aren't entrepreneurs that want to work, that know the trade, that know how to put flooring, how to paint, how to, you know, roof. I mean, things that don't require a license. And then for licensing or licensed contractors, then yeah, I just build relationships, and we built a relationship with Golden Rule, which is crazy because they're like big, right? And you're like, oh, they're not gonna come to terms with you, or
Right.
you know what that
They're
looks
too
like.
big.
But yeah, but no, they've been great. We built a relationship with them, and they've done a few big projects, and then they've been very accommodating. But you know, it's always a no until you ask.
Yeah.
You know, and so for example, one of the houses we needed a new AC unit, and they're like, oh, it's gonna be 6,600. I'm like, I don't have that.
Mhm.
You know, and you have to say it that way. So they're like, oh, that's not within her budget. I'm like, do you have a used AC unit? And he's like, I've never been asked that question. I'm like, but do you? And so he's like, oh, give me just a sec. He went and talked on the phone with his boss, and comes back, and he's like, so weird. We have a used unit in the warehouse, and yeah, we can do it for. I think it dropped down to 4,400.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's do it.
Eh,
You know, you're getting someone with the license. They pull the permits, and they were accommodating. You know, and it's not something that they usually do. But again, if you don't ask, it's always a no.
that makes sense.
You know,
What are your mottos for life?
mindset is everything. I mean, you know, and it's yeah, it's those daily habits, that routine, your faith in whatever it is. You have to have faith, you know, and believe in yourself. You know, everything is possible.
I'd imagine when you quit your job, everybody thought that you were crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain to the family, you know, especially when we come back from a background of hardworking immigrants, and all they know how to do is save money. Well, it's a different time.
Well, do they
Age.
actually? I don't know if I'll consider that saving money.
I know, and so you know, just talking to them and telling, hey, let's invest. There's a better way of saving where you can keep making money, you know, and so yeah, I still spread the word with the community, with my parents, with my family, that the best way to go about it is not saving anymore. That's an old concept. It probably worked back in the day when the dollar was actually worth something,
Yeah.
but not anymore, you know. And so, but yeah, mindset is everything, and you have to believe that you can do it, and the sky is not the limit. That's a lie.
The sky's not the limit.
No. So
I always say that the sky is the limit, so I'm going to have to change that.
you got to change that. The sky is not the limit.
So what's the limit?
We set our limitations, you know, and until you try, you think it's a limit, but it's not. What if it's not a limit? You can do it,
Yeah.
you know?
Maybe just a step.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think it's something that people that you could use some help on right now where you are, in terms of knowledge, in terms of helping you build systems, helping you build processes? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what are you currently struggling in your career? You know, everybody has struggles at some point in their career,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
What do you think of one of those struggles?
So I think a roadblock for me, it is systems and processes, you know, and that's one I think almost every entrepreneur goes through, that where you're like, I have the knowledge, but I don't have a system, you know, and scattered knowledge is not really, like, you have to put it to use somehow. And so, yeah, that's what I'm working on. And
What do you think systems are so hard, especially for flipping?
Um, just there's so much to it, there's just so much to it. So, and you need a system for everything, like even for how you start flipping it. Like, should I start from the top to the bottom? But I think you learn this along the way, and I love learning from experience. It's more meaningful. It sticks better, 'cause somebody can tell you how to do something or tell you a story, but you don't really feel it.
Right.
So yeah, I think you learn what you need to do, and then you implement that, and you build your systems, at least for flipping. It's a way different than with real estate, like being a realtor.
That makes sense. If somebody wanted to get involved with what you're doing, what characteristics or what qualities will that person need to have in order for you to consider mentoring that person?
Don't be risk adverse. You have to be willing to take a risk. And that's why having faith is huge, because you have to have faith that you're going to come through and that you're going to do it. Even just having faith in yourself, if that's all, there is for you. But yeah, you have to be a risk taker.
How can we get in contact with you?
Yeah, so right now I use Facebook only. I'm working on using Instagram more, since it's becoming more popular with the younger
It is becoming, it's the new LinkedIn.
Yeah, I feel like Facebook is a dinosaur that everybody's still just,
It's not going to go away, but
it's not going to go away. So I use Facebook. So, yeah, Bexaida Dominguez on Facebook, or, yeah, I mean, that's social media wise, and then we can just leave all my info. You can tag me.
I'll tag you on everything. Bex, thank you so much for explaining the flipping process and what it's been like.
Thank you for having me here.
I had some sort of an idea when I asked you firstly to have this podcast with you, and I know that systems are a struggle for flippers.
Yeah.
So, and they're all trying to figure out like ways to make it better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Guys, if you made it this far in the video, subscribe, hit the like button. I'll see you guys on the next one.